What's up, everybody? This is the Booch, and welcome to episode 12 of the Boochcast reviews, Darkside of the 90s. And once again, I am joined by the one and only, the broke soulless ginger, Mr. Zack Scott.
What's up, dude and dudettes? Yes, it's me, the broke soulless ginger, Zack Scott. I'm not that broke yet. What is episode of this today? It is MTV and the real world.
Yes. Zach's getting better, ladies and gentlemen. As you can see, I've taught him well.
Hard.
No, the best part, I didn't even have to do that. Usually I do my little spiel, I do a little answer, but you already told them, so it's perfect. Yes, MTV and the real world is our episode for this week, and MTV is definitely something that I had a feeling we were going to cross paths with eventually.
Yes.
I didn't know that the real world was going to be part of it because I'm going to be brutally honest. I have never in my life watched the real world.
I didn't either.
Didn't know much about it. Didn't know it was reality TV. I'll be honest, as a kid, didn't really know what reality TV was. But I will say this. The only thing I know about the real world, there's only one thing that I know about the real world, is that it is the show that gave birth to one of the worst professional wrestlers of all time.
Here we go.
That's the only thing I know about the real world, is that
Here we go.
It birthed the biggest douche in all of wrestling, The Miz. Although,
there's a bigger douchebag than him.
Oh, here's the thing. There's an old story that Jim Cornette used to tell. I'm gonna go over a little wrestling thing here real quick, where he had a conversation with Ole Anderson, and this was years after they had worked together and everything. They were kind of hanging out at a convention somewhere. And the words he said to Ole Anderson, he said, "Jim, I used to think you were a dumb fuck. But so many dumb fucks have come in the business in the last several years that you've managed to fall down the ladder without even trying." And that's honestly how I feel about The Miz in 2023. As you all know, I am not a fan of The Miz. Still not. But there are so many people in the business that have come along that have done more to either bury talent or desecrate and disgrace and besmirch, or as Gator would say, shit upon my business. And then in the last several years, The Miz has managed to knock down the ladder without even trying. Really, at this point, the only thing keeping The Miz on there is the personal issues I've had with him. Other than that, like, everybody else on there's so many people now that I hate more than I ever hated The Miz. In fact, sometimes I forget The Miz is even existing in WWE. I really do. I sometimes forget The Miz is even there. Because right now, he's not really a detriment to the company anymore. Like, ever since Douche Riddle showed up, and then the False Flair, and then you got Kenny and the Dumb Bucks over at AEW. Like, between all of them, I don't even have time to hate The Miz anymore.
Nope.
I really don't. Like, I'm still not a fan. And I'm still going to flip my shit if they give him the WWE title again. Yeah, so that's all I knew about the real world, was that was the birth of The Miz. Other than that, I didn't know shit about the real world and didn't care. But I was still intrigued to learn. And I'm going to learn yet.
Yep.
Landing on cable, MTV was about pushing television's boundaries. But in the 90s, MTV launches an entirely new kind of TV. This is the true story. The real world.
Real world.
By the end of the 90s, the M in MTV stood for mayhem. And of course, they're showing like different shows that are on there. Some of them we're going to touch on a little bit later. But there's two shows on MTV that don't get addressed that we can talk about on here. And of course, this is the Tom Green Show. It's not the Green Tom Show. It is my favorite show because it is my show. And here's the funny thing. I forgot Tom Green had a TV show.
Yeah, I did too.
Honestly, the first time I ever saw Tom Green was Freddie Got Fingered.
I want to play with a horsey. I want to have a chicken sandwich. Yeah.
I hope I get the jobby, Freddie. I got my fingers crossed.
Okay.
I hope I get the jobby. I got my fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
I got my fingers crossed. 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 Yeah, my parents love me more than they love you. No, they don't. Well, I only see one LeBaron, Freddie. I don't see two LeBarons. Where's your LeBaron? No, you can't hurt me. Not with my cheese helmet. That was a deleted scene. But yes, there was that. I was going to do some other ones, but he fucking stole them all, so... But anyway, the Tom Green show was great. Like, apparently he was just videotaping random shit in his house. Mm-hmm. Like, he had the Slutmobile, like, he spray painted his dad's car and got all pissed off. Or, like, he would, like, milk a cow and, like, get underneath the udder and, like, drink the milk right out of the udder. Or hump a dead moose. Like, it was... He did a lot of crazy, goofy, nutty shit.
Yes, he did. And
he was funny as hell. Like, Tom Green was amazing for his time. Although, the biggest regret he had in his career was one song that he wrote.
What?
My bum is on the cheese. My bum is on the cheese. If I get lucky, I'll get a disease.
Oh, no.
And then that's when he got testicular cancer. Yeah. In fact, he actually played the song, and then he looked in the camera and went, well, I got lucky. Mm-hmm. And then they documented his recovery. And then, gave up on the show. Yep. And then eventually he did some other stuff. He said, I did a TV show, got picked up by MTV. Now I do a web TV show in my living room. So my career's going very well. And he eventually kind of went into stand-up. And he's actually a very good stand-up. I think he's very good.
He even did CeeLo's podcast with him.
CeeLo's podcast?
Yeah, he did.
How was that?
Yeah, it was actually very, very good. All they did was talk about skating and everything else. And definitely growing old, but I was like, where the hell has he been? I was like, oh, Tom Green. I remember Tom Green. Yes, dude.
And then, of course, there was one show that defined MTV. I am going to go. I need TV for my bunghole.
Going to the big bunghole.
Are you threatening me? My bunghole will ask the questions. Beavis and Butthead was definitely a great fucking show. Mm-hmm. I love In fact, I think now they've actually redone it on Paramount Plus. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen the new Paramount Plus episodes. I did see briefly when they had it on like MTV2 in like 2011, I think. I saw like the reboot of that. I thought was great. And I'm almost tempted to get Paramount Plus just to see Beavis and Butthead. But I don't know if I'm that desperate yet.
Yeah, I hear you.
I'm waiting to see if I have a friend that has Paramount Plus and I can get their subscription.
Sure.
What's what you do? Do you have one?
But yeah, it's on Amazon Prime. If you have Amazon Prime, you get the Paramount thing.
Wait, if you're on Amazon Prime, you get Paramount Plus?
I think so. No, you don't. You have to pay extra for it.
Okay. Did you pay extra for it?
I don't.
Okay, damn it. If any friends out there have Paramount Plus, please don't comment below. Like, DM me on social media. Give me like the username and the passcode. Just so I can watch Beavis and Butthead. That would be great. And then, of course, there's one that Zach and I talk about all the time. Celebrity Deathmatch.
Yeah. Celebrity Deathmatch. Oh, my God.
Good fight. Good night.
Good night.
And then, of course, there's like, and there's Judge Mills Lane. I'll allow it.
I'll allow it. Let's get it on.
Yes. I want a good, clean fight. Mm-hmm. And the winner is Pamela Anderson. Mm-hmm. And they just did so many funny characters on that.
Yeah, they did.
I think I remember it was like Kathy Lee Gifford versus Howard Stern.
I remember that, and they melted because of the fart he landed on her. Remember that?
Yeah. I am the king, damn it.
Or Charles Manson against Marilyn Manson. Charles Manson took a bite out of him, spit it out, and his piece of his flesh turns into a spider. Because I'm the most evilest man in the world.
Well, I remember there was NSYNC. I think they had NSYNC versus the Backstreet Boys. Mm-hmm. And I think the Spice Girls like interfered and got involved. Mm-hmm. And then Marilyn Manson cut the rafters and dropped them on and killed all of them. As like the death to boy bands. That was a good one. Stone Cold Steve Austin was in there a lot. Mm-hmm. I think Mick Foley did too. Mm-hmm. So there was a lot of great moments. Like there was one with like Austin Powers.
Also, the guys from X-Files and the Men in Black went against each other too.
Yeah, I think they once had Eminem versus Kid Rock.
Yeah,
that was a good one.
Britney Spears against Christina.
Oh, that was a good one. Well, you knew that feud was coming.
Yep.
And then, and then of course, there's a few others we'll get into later, but right now I just want to talk about those right off the bat. Because they're not featured in this episode. Nope. There's one that was featured at the beginning, but they get talked about later, so I don't want to skip ahead. Yep. But I want to address those. Like, those are my favorite MTV shows as a kid. Now, in the beginning, though, the M and MTV stood exclusively for music. Mm-hmm. That's why a lot of times, for all the youngins that are watching, all the youngins, this is why you hear a lot of us say, or have memes or jokes that go, I remember when MTV actually played music.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of us shit on the fact that they used to play music all the time. Now it's just a full-fledged TV show with a bunch of random-ass reality shows on it. And what the fuck is wrong with these people? Like, that's... People kind of walked away from MTV. Mm-hmm. I walked away from MTV for a different reason. Mm-hmm. Where they started doing that whole, here's what white people can do better. How about you go fuck yourself, MTV? You. It was the world's first video music channel.
Yes. That played
all day, all night in stereo. So it was all day, all night, nothing but music. And it was founded in 1981 and was meant to be a 24-hour music video jukebox with no structure. So basically it was kind of like, it was the equivalent of turning on your radio and listening to music all day.
Yeah.
That's kind of what MTV was. You went on there, it just played music videos, one right after the other. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't like, oh, here's all hip-hop, here's all rap. That was like, 1 minute you're listening to, you can't touch this. Ba-na-na-na, da-da-na-na-na. And then you cut to Whitney Houston. And I will always love you. And then you cut to, fuck the police, coming straight from the underground. Then next thing you know, you go to Michael Jackson. Billie Jean's not my lover, she's just a girl. And you can cut right to Wanted.
Wanted, dead or alive.
Dead or alive. Almost from the start, the channel helped to define an entire generation. By the late 80s, MTV expands to include shows that cater to older teens and late night parties. Mm-hmm. And so one show they, of course, mentioned is called, and Zach was very much privy to this one, The Headbangers Ball.
Yes!
So, go ahead.
Yeah, The Headbangers Ball, all the heavy metal music videos were coming. That's how I discovered a lot of bands. I was like, hey, lean forward. That's how I discovered In This Moment and other bands that I got corrupted by.
Anyway, then there's Yo MTV Raps, which we talked about.
Oh, God, I remember that.
We talked about that during the hip-hop episode. That brought a lot of hip-hop to the mainstream and everything else. So that would focus mostly on the rap music. And then there was the Top 20 Countdown.
Yep.
Where they would show the top 20 music videos and everything else. And then, of course, later on, and they didn't bring this here, but another big music thing, this was probably the most popular ever, was TRL. Total Request Live.
Yeah.
And they would play music videos. They would have guests. This is the fact. Some of you might know, like Carson Daly. Mm-hmm. This will put Carson Daly on the map.
Yeah. He
was the host of TRL for many years. He eventually became a talk show host, and I don't know what he's doing now. Last time I saw him, he was on that Barmageddon show on USA, and he was a bartender at the, I think it's this bar that
I know what you're talking about.
Blake Shelton runs. He was a bartender there. I don't know if he was a guest bartender or if that's now what he does for a living. I'm not judging if he does. You do what you gotta do to pay the bills. But I have no idea what Carson Daly's been up to since he had that late show that didn't go anywhere. I only saw one episode, and that's because Dice was on there. And then when grunge explodes, which you can talk, which again, that's episode 5, Grunge and Seattle Sound.
Yep.
MTV gives its audience and mostly young staff a front row seat to the changing culture.
Yeah.
That's when you started seeing all the grunge bands coming on, like Soundgarden and Green River, Pearl Jam.
Green D's not fucking grunge.
No, I said Green River.
The Green River. I thought you said Green Day. No, Green Day. I thought you said Green Day.
No, I said Green River. I did not say Green Day.
Green Day. It's like, I got mad. It's like, is Green Day grunge? I was like, I hear anybody ask me, I'm going to go.
I'm going to be honest. What category do they fall into? Like alternative rock or something?
Alternative punk.
Alternative punk. Okay.
Punk. They're alternative punk.
Okay, that makes sense. I never knew what category they were in. I just knew they played good music. But of course Nirvana, they were coming up in that too. Yet despite its social prominence, serving up music videos on TV faces the same problem as playing songs on the radio. People would change the channel whenever a song came on they didn't like. Which is true.
Yeah, true.
There's so many times where I was watching, I'm like, oh, I love this music video. This is so great. And I love this band. Then somebody will come on and go, this is bullshit, and change the channel. And then so every now and then I come back to see if a good one came on. You know, you check it every so often to see if a music video's on. It's like, oh, well, that sucks. So, and you use anything on the station. Well, I don't like this song. Let's go see what's over here. That's when they start to experiment with other kinds of programming. They have Liquid Television, which was an amazing venue for independent animation.
Yeah.
That's
Clearly,
where
the creators who ever made those shows were tripping on some hardcore LSD.
Yeah, what the fuck was that shit? It was weird. That Liquid Television thing was so fucking strange.
I know. You watch it now, you're like, what the fuck was my childhood?
I don't know what the fuck that was, but it was random.
It was weird.
Made no fucking sense.
None.
And I don't know how the hell that... The only reason that would hold your attention is because you'd be trying to process what the fuck you're watching.
True. Very, very true. You just saw like, oh, yeah, good God, these suck.
The 92 presidential campaign, with its generational battle between George Bush Sr. and Bill Clinton, provides MTV with an opportunity to join in with specials like Choose or Lose. Bill Clinton would go on MTV and speak to young people and answer their questions. Bush, on the other hand, was very standoffish, which many think affected the outcome. And that's something we kind of talked about a little bit last week on the Arsenio Hall episode. That was the fundamental difference between the two. So that's what they would do. They would basically, Bush was doing the old school shit and Bill Clinton was reaching out to the younger generation. He knew, I got to reach out to MTV. I got to reach out over here. And here's the thing, though, that I've always thought was odd about reaching out to younger people. Not that you shouldn't value their opinion, because children are the future. But here's the thing. Most of them can't vote yet.
Nope.
So, why are we asking their opinion? The only time you should be asking their opinion is if they're, close to 18.
Yeah, true.
Because if you're not registered to vote, or if you can't legally vote in America, your opinion's not really going to matter.
Nope.
It's just not. Why would you want to reach out to people who aren't... The only way that works is if you're trying to plan for your re-election. Let me reach out to them now, and then that way in 4 years, when I'm up again, and these kids are now of age, they'll vote for me then. But you're also got to make sure in those 4 years, you don't fuck up. Because if you fuck up, you're not getting their vote.
No, you're not.
Because don't think because they have an opinion at this age that it's not gonna change in a few years. I know there's some snowflakes out there that think you're born a certain way and then that's your thought process forever. Nope. People grow, change, and evolve, dumbasses. So, MTV also launches Rock the Vote and solicits music's biggest stars to speak out on issues important to MTV's audiences. And here's the problem, though. This, I think, is what started the precedent for celebrities thinking that people give a shit about their opinions on political issues. And to quote one of my favorite comics, just because you're famous does not mean you're smart. No one fucking cares. I don't give a shit, especially when they put Madonna in the picture. Look, no one's giving a shit what Madonna thinks. And here's another thing I don't like about it. Because all you guys do is go out there and you tell people, get out and vote. It's your patriotic duty. Go out there and vote, kids. Go out there and vote. Here's the problem. You only want people to vote if they're voting for your interest. Because let's say you're out there encouraging those kids to vote, and they vote differently than you. You're giving more votes to the opposition.
True. Or do what I do. Don't vote and don't give two flares. Fuck.
I'm just saying.
Well, you can both things.
The whole thing is a fucking hypocritical because we all know that even though you're saying go out and vote, what you're really saying is go out and vote for the person we like.
Yep.
And most of the time, we like the guy on the left.
Yep. Not the guy on the right.
So vote for the guy on the left.
Not the guy on the right.
Even though the guy on the left is a little bit kooky.
Kooky.
He's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Y'all love Cocoa Puffs, right, kids? Go vote. So anyway. But politics just isn't as interesting to young people as what's happening on Fox's recently launched show, Beverly Hills 90210. Which, again, kids don't give a shit about politics.
We really do not.
Why? Because no one gives a fuck what children think. You really don't.
No, we don't.
Let's be honest. If you're an adult You don't care what children think. Most kids are, if you live in a household with parents, I would be shocked to meet a person who, when they were a child, their mom and dad actually valued their fucking opinions. I guarantee you, my mom and dad didn't give a fuck what I had to think when it came to politics. You know why?
Why?
Because I wasn't paying taxes, I wasn't paying bills, I didn't pay the mortgage, I didn't have a job, I didn't care. When you're a kid, you don't care about health insurance. You're on your parents' health insurance. You don't care about employment. You don't have a job. You don't care about unions. You're not in one.
True.
You don't care about infrastructure. You don't even know what the fuck that word means when you're a kid.
Very true.
Now, I'm 35. I still don't know what the fuck it means.
So do I.
And you're like, I can't believe you know what the fuck it means. Well, I'm not in politics.
Me neither. I never will be.
All right? I don't need to know what infrastructure is. I'm not running for president.
Nope.
If I want to be hated, I can do it on my own. I don't need to run for president.
Nope.
So no one cares. Like, that's the thing. We watch, like, all you kids care about is TV. Yeah, because we don't get to make any decisions.
Mm-hmm.
So why would we care? And I'll tell you this right now. I'm 35. The last thing I want to hear from someone in their 20s or a teenager is how you think the world works. And by that token, people in their 50s and 60s, they don't give a shit how I think the world works.
Nope.
They don't care. No one cares what younger people think. And the reason is because you don't know shit.
Don't.
I don't care how many books you read. I don't care what you Google. I don't care what's going on. You can be depressed all you want. If you're in your 20s or a teenager, I got news for you. Life hasn't even begun to fuck you yet.
Not yet.
Not even close.
Not even close.
Yeah, trust me. When you get to your 30s, that's when you start to feel pain. And I mean emotional, real pain and depression and, oh my God, my life is over. Like, because for some reason when people hit it to 30, they think their life is over. And then you got people in your 50s and 60s going, yeah, you're good. Like, how old are you? I'm like 35. Oh, you're still a baby. The fuck?
Fuck you. I hate Aaron Ash.
I was like,
I'm hurting.
See, I know I'm a little immature, but I am 35. So MTV shifts gears and goes looking for a youth-oriented soap opera of their own. Because right now, everyone's into Beverly Hills 90210. Two unknown TV writers living in New York take up the challenge. What they create will transform television for the next 4 decades. Because this, ladies and gentlemen, everybody wants to know, how did reality TV start? Right here. They pitched an idea for a soap opera, and MTV said it's too expensive. Costs too much money. So they said, let's throw out the writers. Still too expensive. How about we throw out the writers and the actors, and we just film regular people for next to nothing? Yeah, you can shoot hundreds of hours of footage with that. And that's how The Real World was born. Basically, it's a soap opera with no writers and no actors. It gave birth to an entire genre of television called reality TV. You're watching real people in real lives, for better, but often for worse.
True.
Being yourself in front of the camera can now make you famous. So a lot of people out there today are in front of the cameras trying to make themselves famous. Two people in particular right now. But here's the thing, though. This was where it started. See, today, trying to get in front of the camera, trying to make yourself famous, that's nothing new.
Nope.
That's nothing innovative.
Nope.
Back then, it was unheard of in the 90s to want to do this. That's another thing we mentioned before was fame was the unfortunate byproduct of being successful. Famous was never the goal. That was just the unfortunate side effect of achieving your goal. Now, it's all people want. So we meet Andre Comeo, who was on the first season of The Real World.
Yes.
And as he claims, he started this whole reality TV hell. His sister was a promotions executive at EMI Records, which was one of the places they were mining for young talent. They were going to different places to look for younger people to see who they could cast. Because even though they were not hiring like actors, you still got to cast people. And you got to find people who are going to be interesting to have in the house. Because that's the key thing. Whether it's reality TV or whatever, there's still a casting process. And you still got to meet certain qualifications to be on a show. And one of her friends recommended him to that casting director. So he had to weigh in, which is always helpful. But Andre's still up against 500 other hopefuls. After numerous interviews and auditions, he gets a life-altering call as they cast him on the show.
Yep.
So he beats out these other people, and they're like, hey, we'd like to have you on the show. The first season consisted mostly of artists.
Yeah.
There was a couple of musicians. There was a dancer. Mm-hmm. There was a poet. Mm-hmm. There was a model. Mm-hmm. And there was a painter.
Yes.
And basically, how the show was originally structured was all these talented people are living in a house, and these are all people who came out to New York to make it happen. Mm. You know, they wanted to move to New York and forward their careers, like some entertainers do. Sometimes when they get in one area and they decide that they're ready to go to the big time, they go out to New York to try to make it happen, or go out to LA to try to make it happen. Like, hey, we want to forward our careers. Let's go to New York, where all the big wigs are, and make it happen. Because back then, you had to do that. Today, everybody's got a camera and can film content. We have social media. We have ways of getting, and phones. We have ways of getting ourselves out there no matter where we are.
Prime example of your phone. Did you see recently about that poor Waffle House employee got the chair thrown at her? But every stood there and did fucking nothing. She defected it like that, like some shit in the Matrix, like a superhero. I was like, holy shit. And see, this is why I don't work at Waffle House anymore, because of that bullshit right there. Because you throw a chair at me, I'm going to throw a fucking knife at you.
It was all about turn on the camera and watch them live. That was literally the show. They just turned on the camera, and whatever happened, happened.
Let the shit unfold.
Despite being totally unique, The Real World isn't the first show to document regular people living their lives.
True.
That honor goes to a little-remembered PBS series from 1973 called An American Family. Mm-hmm. And it consisted of a family that had 5 children, and they filmed them for a period of about 6 months. Mm-hmm. And it was just them going about their everyday lives. It's an idea that everyday people are interesting enough on their own, and The Real World was inspired by this.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So that was it. And this was supposed to be, before producers and everybody started, like, dipping their hands in the shows. That's what reality TV was supposed to be. Real moments in real time.
Yep.
Now, they might have had certain settings that were staged. Like, we're going to go over here, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. But no one was given a script. Nobody was told what to say. Mm-hmm. Nothing was choreographed. It was, let's see what they do.
Yep.
Whatever happens, happens.
Happens.
And they did that with this family, which I've never seen it, but it's very interesting.
Yeah, it looks like it's normal, not that they're not batshit fucking crazy.
Well, maybe they're not. Because a lot of times when if you have more than 2 kids, mm-hmm. You have your first kid, oh, he's so cute. Second one, oh, what an angel. The third one, oh, the third one's like, oh, it's beautiful. After the 4th child, it's like, hey, what? Then you get to number 5, and it's like, are they Mormons? The fuck is going on here?
Doyle rules.
Yeah. Then you get to 6, and it's like, all right, now y'all are scaring me.
Cheaper by the dozen.
Yeah, like, what the hell? Like, I got 12 brothers and sisters. What? The hell? Again, this is why I say the kidney stone is worse. I couldn't imagine having 12 kidney stones. Fuck my life. The Lord can take me. The Real World format may date back to PBS in the 70s, but that's the only thing this 90s MTV show has in common with that earlier decade. They were having interesting conversations on the networks. We weren't really seeing this at the time. Everything was like super manufactured. This had the smell of being real. The show encourages castmates to engage in the country's increasingly volatile social issues. Yes. They went to the women's rights rally in Washington, D.C., and a political campaign. So again, that's the example. So the producers might go, hey, we're going to take you here. But they're not going to tell them what to say. They're not going to tell them what to think. They're not going to tell them how to feel. They're not going to say, here's your individual political beliefs. It's like, no. You take your opinions and go out here. So they set the stage, but that's it. It's like, okay, we're going to go here. You guys ready? Cameras are on.
Yep.
Let's see what the fuck happens.
Yep.
But the real world is so unlike anything else on TV. Because we mentioned before, the casts are flying completely blind. Nobody knew what they were doing or what they were supposed to be doing. Nobody had any pre-written jokes or zingers. They just showed up and acted like their normal selves. Conflicts happened, but it happened organically. And that is the key thing. Yes, there were arguments. There were fights. We're going to get into a plenty of them on this episode. But the key thing is, they weren't staged, and they weren't pressured by producers.
No, they weren't.
They happened all on their own.
Yes, they did.
And they just captured it.
Wonder sometimes why they never got arrested for fighting. And that's all the fights. Like, seriously, you're going to fight over this right here? I mean, I remember the New World. Some of the girls were cute and everything else. I just didn't watch it. I was too young to remember. All I want to do is watch the music videos. None of the real world shit.
Well, yeah. Well, here's the thing. When you got a bunch of people living in a house, there's bound to be fights and conflict.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's going to happen. That's just the way it goes. You're going to be in these situations.
True.
But there's a problem with that. We're going to get to it a little bit later. But we're just saying, the key thing here was that any fights that happened during the first season, they happened on their own. If they spent the whole series just holding hands and singing Kumbaya, then the whole season would have been them holding hands and singing Kumbaya.
It'd be boring as shit.
Yeah, but it would have been real.
True.
But if the whole time, if every day they woke up, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, go suck my dick, whatever, that would have been the whole show then. In early 92, the most sensitive conflicts in America center around race.
True.
Race becomes a big thing in the 90s.
Yes, it was.
The entire country is awaiting a verdict in the trial of the 4 cops who beat Rodney King.
God, I remember.
Now, again, we've already discussed Rodney King, and we're probably going to talk about him again at some point. So that's not something we're going to dive deep into. So, and again, I have to say that because I don't want people thinking they're just going to skip over Rodney King. We already talked about Rodney King.
We already talked about Rodney King.
So we don't want to repeat and repeat this thing.
No, we don't want to.
Now, Kevin the Poet is having a discussion with race with some of the white castmates. And some are listening while the girl is debating him, the Southern girl. Yeah. And as the race and debate simmers inside the loft, outside in the real world, a full-on race war is raging. And that's kind of the big thing. You're seeing the discussion happen where, you know, there's arguments going around about racism and everything. And you're seeing, like, Kevin talking about, like, how the system is against them. And the young white girl, I can never remember her name.
Chelsea, no, not.
I think it was Chelsea or Julie.
Julie.
I think it was Julie, yeah. Julie's, like, arguing with Kevin because Julie's trying to say, like, you know, she's not saying racism doesn't exist, but she thinks Kevin is being overdramatic. And a lot of them thought he was being overdramatic.
He wasn't. I was like, okay, dude, we get the point. We understand. She was not racist at all. It's just like she didn't maybe understand at the time because she was a sheltered white kid. I was like, I wasn't a sheltered white kid. I was like, wait a minute, I don't believe it. Never have.
Well, the thing is that, you know, some people just, when you don't grow up around that shit, your brain just isn't wired to think that way. And that's the thing. Like me, my brain was never wired to think that way. I also lucked out because I had parents who didn't raise me to be that way.
Yeah, same here with mine.
You know, like my first introduction to racism was really like the late 90s was when I really started to, like, learn about it. Like, obviously I learned about the Civil War and a few other things like that. But in elementary school, they're not going to go deep into it like they do in middle and high school and college and all that shit. You just learn the basics of it. But it never affected anybody in the classroom. It didn't make anybody look anything different, you know, because you're just kids hanging out.
True.
And as long as you don't have parents that are instilling this shit in you, you can get by.
Yeah.
Without having that as a problem. My first introduction to it was I saw a documentary on the KKK. Mm-hmm. It just happened to come on TV. And right around this time, I was starting to learn about it.
Yeah.
And I was, like, fascinated by it because at that time, and even today, I've never been able to just look at somebody and just based on the color of their skin, instantly hate them.
True.
Like, and look, obviously, I can be a hateful person. I'm no stranger to that. I talk a lot about how I hate this, how much I hate people. I'm not a people person. I get angry, I get raged, I go crazy. But here's the thing. Skin color never got me that angry.
No, I never have.
Someone would have to be... normally it's because somebody's being a fucking asshole, or they're being irritating, or they're being entitled, or they're just bitching about stupid shit. That gets me angry. So I was fascinated at the time, at a young age, why you could just look at somebody, color their skin, and just hate them instantly. That didn't work for me. For me to hate somebody that's black, I need more than just your skin color. Like, you need to be a dick. You need to be a mean person. You need to piss me off in some way to make me want to go, fuck you, I hope you fucking die. You have to do other things besides just be black. That ain't good enough for me. True. That ain't enough to make me angry. So, I'm watching this special, and it was the dumbest shit I ever saw in my life.
Yeah, no.
Because it's showing, like, the history of the Klan. But before that, it showed, here's the Klan today. Now, this documentary came out, like, 98. I don't know what the Klan's like in 2023. By the way, like, in 98, it just looks sad.
It's very sad.
Like, they look like comedians at an open mic night. They got, like, a PA system and a shitty microphone, and they're talking into it in the middle of, like, at the top of this, like, City Hall building, and they're saying, we're the Ku Klux Klan, we hate, and they're saying all these racial slurs. And then I'm like, I'm waiting for something, and this is the part that stood out to me. This one Klan member, they hand him the microphone, and these is his exact words, and I quote, and again, this is him saying this, not me. This was exact quote. He goes, I hate Jews. I hate them because they exist. I hate them because they breathe. I hate them because they walk the streets. And I'm like, now as a kid, I'm sitting here going, that's it? Mm-hmm. That's it? That's your reason? There's no other reason here? Mm-hmm. I'm waiting for something like big to come up here. Like how you can hate a whole group of people. And I'm like, dude, I got nothing. This is stupid.
Yeah, stupid.
What the fuck is this crap? Like, really? That's why? That makes no logical fucking sense. You're an idiot. So, I didn't need to be told that the Klan is full of dumbasses. That documentary pretty much sealed it for me. I was like, okay, these people are fucking morons. And I'm not following anything they fucking say.
Nothing at all.
Because they're fucking stupid.
Very stupid.
And keep in mind, that's like the first 10 minutes of the fucking documentary. Then they go into the history of it, and I'm like, okay, all right. And I'm sitting here going, none of this shit makes... Okay, I got nothing. None of this shit makes sense to me.
None of it at all.
None of these are reasons to hate people. None.
None at all.
None. Like, this is the dumbest shit. Like, that was my education
Sure.
on racism right there. And how stupid it is. But if you're not around it, you don't understand it.
No, you don't.
I think that Kevin was the type of person that was willing to educate. Mm-hmm. But I think Kevin's problem was he was too emotional about it to really explain it. And I think Julie getting mad made him even angrier. But I think Julie kind of pushed him verbally. Julie basically acted the way crazy snowflakes act today. That's what she was in the 90s. We just didn't have a name for it yet.
Yep.
But I think that's what Julie was. And I'm not trying to hate on Julie, but she just really was showing her ignorance in that.
True. Although
Kevin did say something, like at one point they were talking about jobs, and he said, if you and I would up for the same job, who do you think would get it? She's like, I don't know. She goes, I guarantee you would get it. And I'm like, okay, what's the job? Like, this would be my question. If someone said that to me, I'd be like, okay, what's the job? Like if Kevin wanted to win the argument, he goes and he was like, okay, let's say you and I want to go up for the same job. And we got a resume. And we each got the same qualifications for the job. Who do you think they're going to choose? That's a way to win your argument. Because you might have the same job skills, but they might use skin color as a way to weed out the other person.
Yeah.
But I seriously doubt, and I could be wrong, but I seriously doubt that if Kevin and Julie were applying for the same job, and Kevin is light years more qualified than Julie, I doubt they're going to hire Julie. Because I don't think any businessman, again, you gotta think about businessmen here. businessmen might be racist. I said this before. They might be racist, but they are capitalists first.
Yes.
They want to make money.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if both of you have the same qualifications and you go up for a job, then I can see race maybe playing a factor. So it's like maybe. But if you're just saying we go up for the same job, like that's too broad a statement. Mm-hmm. Narrow it down so we can have a better discussion. That's why she's sitting there going, I don't know. I say the same thing, like, I don't fucking know. Mm-hmm. You're not giving me a lot of details to work with, Kevin.
Very true.
Now, on April 29th, 1992, the 4 white cops who beat Rodney King are acquitted. Over the next week, the LA riots death toll hit 63. All right. Now, obviously, we've already talked about the riots. We're not going to go into that. But what we didn't talk about, because we didn't have the information at the time, was the fact that the cops got acquitted.
Sure.
In this particular case, I can understand black people being angry at that. I'm surprised the whole nation isn't angry about that. Because there is no reason that those cops should not be in jail.
Not do a radical protest where the courthouse is or the police station, but do billions of dollars worth of damage and 63 end up getting killed. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. The innocent people didn't deserve to die.
True.
That's the thing. Like, setting the world on fire is probably not the best solution.
True.
But, again, the anger is justified.
True.
The destruction is not. That video is showing clear as day that those cops are guilty.
Yes.
Like, literally, that is solid video evidence. There's no way, this is me talking, there is no way race didn't play a role in that. No way.
True.
You can't, there are certain times where black people have been arrested by the cops and people try to claim racism and you can have a debate with, no, the cop was doing his job. There's some cases where you can have a debate on that. With Rodney King, there is no debate.
True.
There's nothing the cops did that was justified or done by the books. This is a black man who got beat to within an inch of his life, and those cops should have went to fucking jail. Or at the very least, lost their jobs. If they didn't go to jail. The only other scenario would be fire them as police. But the fact they were acquitted and got to go back to work is goddamn ridiculous. That is a racist justice system. I'm sorry. If you're on the jury and you saw that video and you honestly think those cops are not guilty, you're fucking racist. And again, this is me talking. That is, to me, that's a fucking racist. When the evidence is right there in front of you and you still won't acknowledge it, that makes you a fucking racist. You're clearly fucking racist. Because clearly, this man got his ass kicked. And didn't deserve to. And here's the thing. Even if let's say he did break the law. Let's just pretend that Rodney King did in fact break the law. There's still no reason for 4 cops to be surrounding him, whacking him with billy clubs. None. Now, if it was 1 cop and the guy was running and he hit him twice and put him in handcuffs, okay. I might be able to side with a cop, maybe, on that one. But 4 guys surrounding him, beating him to death?
No, I wasn't.
No. Now, back in New York, the cast of MTV's Real World watching horror. The Manhattan Law becomes a microcosm of the country's rising racial tensions. And of course, Julie, who was the youngest cast member, as you mentioned before, she grew up very sheltered, didn't have a lot of experience talking with people from different racial backgrounds. The cast takes Julie's side and see it as Kevin freaking out. Because again, I think Kevin could give good explanation, but I think Kevin was a little too over emotional. And I'm not saying he shouldn't be, I'm just saying that's how it was. Mm-hmm. And I think Julie was being too aggressive.
Yeah.
Like, Julie was being unwilling to listen. Like, I think if Julie took a breath, really listened to what Kevin was saying, she probably could have understood. And at the time, these are young kids. So that's why they're seeing it as Kevin freaking out. Obviously, because again, it's the 90s. People had different mindsets back then. See, a lot of the cast members can look back on that with 2023 eyes and see, okay, Kevin did have valid points. Kevin was saying a lot of things that are true. We wish we had known that at the time, but we didn't. And we can't change the past.
Nope.
So clearly, that's how that went. And that's why I think both of them were there. I think Julie kept jumping to conclusions.
Yeah.
And, even when she said, oh, you're going to hit me? And he goes, no, that wasn't even part of the conversation. He goes, why, you think because I'm black I'm going to hit you? And that's when it started really getting, emotional with them. And it was crazy because no matter how tense it got, no one ever got kicked out of the house. That's what I find fascinating. They all still managed to live together somehow, but tensions were clearly high. And what made this show good was the fact that it was addressing the problems, which a lot of shows weren't doing. And if they did, they addressed it briefly or in a different way. Yeah. Really, as far as I know, in the 90s, I can only think of 2 shows that really addressed the LA riots. And that was Doogie Howser, MD. They had a whole episode devoted to that in the last season. And A Different World had an episode where they got into that. Now, obviously, we'll talk more about A Different World on a later episode. But on Doogie Howser, they did have an episode. I think it was the first episode of the last season where the LA riots are happening and they're treating patients that have been injured in the riots.
Yeah.
And you're hearing different sides of the story from different people. And you're hearing, some people who are being ignorant to the situation, or some people that feel like violence is the answer. They're trying to explain to them that the violence is not. And you see certain people that are in gangs doing the gang warfare and stuff. And it really is an eye-opener for certain people. And it sparks debates and discussions. And they're able to have those discussions in a rational way. Which, as we mentioned before, is how it should be done. But the show is more than just arguments and racial uneasiness. The roommates are also out pursuing their dreams. Yes. Or just having a good time. The cast never slept with each other, but did fuck members of the crew. So the cast never slept with each other, but they did sleep with some of the crew members. Which can happen.
True.
So they're saying, we just never slept with each other. For example, they said Becky and Bill hooked up in Jamaica. And Bill got in trouble with the producers and was fired from the show.
Yeah.
And I can tell you why. Not just because they slept together. That's not really the big issue here. If the cast members had slept with each other, nobody would have cared. Because they're filming real people in real time. But when it comes to filming things like this is technically in the category of a documentary. And most of the time, there are some exceptions. When you're filming a documentary like this, the crew members are not allowed to get involved. That is a rule. You stay behind the camera. You're just supposed to film as it's happening. You let the cast members do what they do. You are not allowed to put that camera down. Now, there are some exceptions to the rule. For example, if you're doing a documentary on yourself, and sometimes the camera crew might ask you some questions, if you're being interviewed for a documentary. Like for example, when I did Booch in the Car, sometimes the film people, I would talk to them. They were not every episode, but there was a few. Yeah. They would ask me questions, and I would answer them. And sometimes we would go over a few things, or sometimes when you watch Darkside of the Ring, every now and then you'll hear a documentarian ask a question. Yeah. And all that, because they're being interviewed. So those are the exceptions. But in a show like that, you're not supposed to interfere. So that's why he got too close to the cast members. And that's the other thing, was that even though they had a lot of these real moments, the overall show was about them pursuing their dreams and living their life. So not every episode was arguments and fights and conflicts. Some of them was just them hanging out, just having a good time.
That's true.
There was a happy middle ground. It wasn't too boring and it wasn't too dramatic. It had a happy middle, which is what you want a reality show to be.
Yes.
On the last day of shooting, the cast burst into the control room to celebrate what they think is the end of this televised social experiment. They were the first to see what happens after it's done. Most are shocked that it is edited more like a soap opera and less like a documentary. They get to see how it's presented and if things they say get taken out of context. They think it's over, but the weird shit has only just begun.
That's very, very true.
And that's the thing. That's the sad part about recording documentaries or live moments like this.
Yeah. Is
you don't know how they're going to edit the footage.
That's very, very true too.
And there are times where you might say something in one context, but the way they edit it, it sounds like something else. A prime example of that was John Cena on CNN. Mm-hmm. When they did the Chris Benoit documentary about steroids in wrestling. And they did a thing about John Cena where they asked him if he uses steroids. And he says, absolutely not. I don't use steroids. And I've been bodybuilding since I was a teenager. I've been tested for drugs my whole life. I've passed every single one of them.
Yeah, I can see John Cena not being a clean-cut guy.
But then he said, and then some people were talking about steroids, and he goes, you know what? It's a crazy question. And it's kind of tough to answer because the way society is now, because steroids and performance-enhancing drugs have got the spotlight. It's a thing to talk about. He goes, I can't tell you I haven't, but you'll never be able to prove that I have. Because everybody out there has an opinion on how I carry myself. So even if I pass every test, I go, oh, there's masking agents, there's this, that. I know the arguments because I've been there. I just have got the God-given gift of above-average natural ability. And I show it off whenever I can. Because it's fun for me. That was the first clip. Yeah. When the CNN documentary aired, that was like a minute and a half. It took 45 seconds. And this is how they edited. They go, John Cena is a WWE superstar who does not like to be asked if he uses steroids. And they go, and then they turn to Cena going, it's a crazy question. And it's just tough to answer because of how society is now, because performance-enhancing drugs have got the spotlight. And it's a tough topic to talk about. He goes, I can't tell you I haven't, but you'll never be able to prove that I have. Cut to the next scene. That's how powerful editors are. In fact, the day after that aired, WWE immediately put out a statement showing the side-by-side video clips and showing that CNN fucked with John Cena. Which is why I say fuck CNN.
Fuck CNN. I've been saying fuck CNN for years.
I didn't need a Trump election to prove that CNN was fake news. I've known that since 2007 when they fucked with wrestling. They entered my domain. Fuck CNN.
Fuck CNN.
So, but I'm just saying, you don't know how it's going to come out.
True.
That's why you got to be careful. And I've learned that. Like sometimes you edit certain things, they come out a certain way, things are said. So people can edit you to make you look amazing.
True.
And they can make you look like the biggest asshole in the world.
Very true.
And there's nothing worse than people editing it to make it look like something you're not. On May 21st, 1992, just days after filming ends, The Real World premieres on MTV. The cast becomes stars overnight. Yep. That kind of instant celebrity often comes with fame and fortune, but doesn't quite work out that way. Andre said he only made $2,600 and owned no rights to the show. He thought it would only air once or twice, but it ended up becoming a hit show and aired in reruns and marathons. And they received no benefits from that.
That's bullshit.
Like financial benefits, I mean.
They should have received something for it.
Yeah. They gave up their lives and likeness for nothing.
True.
Fame without fortune is a drag. Andre had obsessed fans, but no way to pay his bills. He went through a depression and a fit of rage, cut off his hair, and became a recluse. And I've been waiting for someone to say that. Because I can tell you right now, from personal fucking experience, he is 1,000,000% right when he says fame without fortune is a drag. Some of you might have seen this reel. I put it on my Instagram, I put it on TikTok, and I put it on Facebook, where I talk about how I got the fame but no money. That was my life. When I was on the regular guys, I was the Booch, and I was getting famous on the internet, and I was famous around Atlanta, and I was getting a lot of fame. Appearing on podcasts and shows and getting subscribers and likes and follows and all that shit. But guess what? I didn't make any money. When I worked for the regular guys, I did not get paid. The only money I made was from a few talent gigs that I did. For example, when we did the pregnant girl bikini pageant. And I had to just look like a baby. I got paid for that. When I did the stripper wrestling at the Gold Rush with Southside Steve, I got paid for that. Now, I'm not necessarily bitter at the fact that I didn't get paid. My parents are handling all the bitterness for me. Mm-hmm. It's like, I don't have to be bitter. My dad took care of the bitterness for me. Mm-hmm. So, but it's true. Because I wasn't making any money. I was doing all these big things. I had all these major projects, but none of them were bringing in money. I worked for UCW for a long time. Didn't make any money there. Very little, if any. I did Adult Swim. I got paid for that. I got paid a good amount. You know, it lasted 2 seasons, so that one paid. When I did Doom Patrol, I got paid for that. But I only had an extra slot, so I made some money, but not a lot. It was enough to be worth it for a day, but not enough that was going to financially set me up. So, having fame and no money sucks. Mm-hmm. It fucking sucks, ladies and gentlemen. Because let me tell you something. That attention stays for a little while, and then it's fleeting. Every now and then, you got some fans that are sticking around, and I've got fans that have stuck around. But as far as mainstream fame, I ain't got that. And I'll tell you right now, I'd rather have the money. There are some comedians that are not, if I told you their names, you wouldn't have a clue who they were. But they make money and a living doing stand-up. And I trade places with a lot of them in a heartbeat. Mm-hmm. I would much rather make money and hit the road than make no money and be on TV or the radio or all that. That's why if I ever go back to radio, I'm getting paid. Mm-hmm. You know, that's why when I work with people now, I make sure there's money involved in some way. Unless I'm doing a trade-off or something that's going to benefit me in the long run. Sure. You know, obviously if I'm being interviewed on the radio, I don't expect to get paid. But if I'm going to be a feature player on a radio show, if I'm going to be a co-host or something, I'm damn sure getting paid. Sure. Because I'm telling you right now, it is a nightmare to not have fame and no money. It sucks. Yep. Fucking sucks.
It sucks.
It really does.
It
God,
sucks. I can see that sucking.
I needed to get that off my chest so badly that somebody else finally saw what I was saying. You know, that was, you know, it's one thing to be famous, but if there's money with the fame, that's even better.
Yes.
It's like, all right, I'm doing a lot of this fame. There's also a lot of haters coming my way, but at least my bills are paid. So bring it on. When you're dealing with haters and everything else and you can't pay your bills, it's depressing.
Very depressing.
Despite Andre's personal struggles, many 20-something fans see the real world as a new and novel way to get their 15 minutes of fame. In January 1993, 7 new housemates are on board for the real world Los Angeles. So now instead of New York, they're putting in LA. They basically remembered the fighting and just had that all the time. Mm-hmm. They put 3 people in a Winnebago and had them drive cross country from New York to LA to pass the torch. Mm-hmm. The season 2 cast learned the value of speaking in sound bites. They create characters and try to give the editors stuff to work with. Mm-hmm. So now they learned. Mm-hmm. From the first season. For the first season, they were kind of the guinea pigs. Mm-hmm. Now they learned, okay, they want to edit stuff. They're going to put things in sound bites. So that's why they would only work in that. Give the editors stuff to work with. Try to make themselves stand out. They were creating characters. They basically weren't being real in the real world. Now at this point, it's not as authentic as the first season was. And the fights, they're now setting them up. Yep. And that's not good. You don't want a show like that. I'm sorry, any show that creates conflict to be entertained, by the way, if you're one of those people that hates the fact that there's constant fighting on reality shows, know that you, the audience that watch these shows, are to blame for that.
Encouraging it.
You're encouraging it. Yeah. If you want to discourage it, don't watch. It's like, why can't people just get along? Because apparently that's not entertaining. You know? People would rather see people be miserable, angry, and shitting all over themselves than be successful. Because instead of looking for somebody to idolize and aspire to be like, instead, you want to see people who are shitty so you can feel better about your shitty life. That's how people are today. Yep. And it's why America is imploding.
Very true.
So, the new cast desire to be good TV may contribute to a dangerous confrontation. Tammy and Beth and David are all joking around. Tammy is trying to go to bed, and David tries to pull the blanket off of Tammy, but she doesn't have any underwear on. At first, it started off as a joke, but then it stops being funny, and David is kicked out of the real world house because they don't feel safe with him in the house.
I can understand.
I mean...
Just to stop. Like, okay, I'm done fucking with you, and just walk away and go fuck with somebody else.
I mean, well... Here's the thing. Do I think David is dangerous? No. But he did go... Do I think he went too far? Yes. Do I think he deserved to be kicked out? No. Because at the end of the day, all he really did was pull a blanket off. And he wasn't the only one pulling on the blanket. Tammy was there as well, yet nobody said shit to Tammy. And she runs in the bathroom and everyone's sitting there laughing. Did they at least have a sit down with David? Like, here's what I think they should have done. At least have a sit down with the guy. Hey, you went too far. At least give David a chance to apologize. See if he's actually sorry for what he did. And if he's not sorry, kick him the fuck out. He's a piece of shit. But I think that was something that was not as horrible as I think people are making it out to be.
Very true.
She dragged across the floor by a blanket. It's not like she was being dragged by her hair or dragged down the stairs. There was no, like, physical violence done.
True. There wasn't.
You know, I think that was something that could have easily been worked out. You know?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. Or just don't do it.
Yeah, like, David just be like, all right, I fucked up, I'm sorry, we were having fun. Like, and the reason I say, and some people might think I'm being harsh for that, but I've been in situations where people joke like that. Whether it's guys doing it to each other or girls doing it to each other. Depends. There's sometimes people do it to ball bust, some people do it to just be mean. And I don't think David was doing it to be mean. True. I really don't. I think he was genuinely being sarcastic, but he went too far. And I think if given the chance, he probably would have I went too far with that, I'm sorry. I would at least give him a chance to apologize before throwing his ass out. But that first will be overshadowed by Tammy revealing something never before divulged on reality TV. She's pregnant and is getting an abortion. Now, at the beginning of the decade, the Roe v. Wade ruling is under attack as legalized abortion becomes an even more divisive issue. Abortion clinics become battlefields. Michael Griffin shoots an abortion doctor named David Gunn. People are harassed coming in and out of clinics. So once again, there's a major issue, and once again, it's being addressed on the real world. And obviously, you know, this is now once again another controversial issue that's hard to avoid that is now being addressed on the real world. And this is another one of the heart and soul of what the show became. Whenever there's a major issue going on in the world, you have someone on the show that's going to address it.
Yeah.
Now, the weird thing about Tammy being pregnant, here's my question. Was she pregnant when she came into the house? Or did she get pregnant throughout the season? Like have a one-night stand with some random guy? Because here's why I say that. Because if it turned out she was pregnant when she came into the house, then I can see David being a piece of shit for dragging her with the blanket. Unless no one bothered to tell anybody. But if you know somebody is pregnant and you're still dragging them across the table, you're a piece of shit. You shouldn't even be making that joke when someone's pregnant. Okay? So that's why I asked that. I don't know when the hell she got pregnant. And then, of course, there's the whole abortion debate. And here's the thing. Obviously, abortion doctors should not be getting shot. No one should be fucking with these people. And no one should be harassed coming in and out of a clinic. You can have an opinion on abortion, but there's no reason to be harassing people. I don't believe in that. And I know I've mentioned this before on a podcast, but I'm not going to go too deep into it. But this is basically my take on the whole thing. I've only ever been against abortion for one reason and one reason only. And it's not religious. No. And it's not even the fact that there's a baby being killed. Because if it's not my baby, it's not my problem. That's how I look at it. So I'm not going to get into that. Even though I do think there's a baby being killed, if it's not my baby, it's not my cause for concern. True. Because I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I care about human life. Because I've said it before and I'll say it again. For me to care about you, you have to fall into one of three categories. You either are my friend, my family, or my fan. If we ain't friends, if we ain't family, if you ain't a fan of mine, I don't care about you. Those are the people that I care about. That's my circle. My friends, my family, my fans. Those are the people I love. Those are the people who I got their back. Why? Because if you're in those three groups, that means you got my back. So I got yours. Simple as that. My only issue with abortion is that it gives women an option that guys don't have. A choice and a way out. That's really it. If a woman gets pregnant and decides, you know what? I don't want to be a mom. I don't want this responsibility. I'm not able to handle this. I want out. She can go to a clinic, get an abortion, and not have to deal with the problem. And even if the guy says, well, I want to be a dad, I want to keep the baby. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do about it.
Nothing you can do about that.
You can even go to the court system.
Exactly. But here's the flip side. Let's say she decides she wants the baby. And as the dad, you say, you know what? I don't want this. I don't want this responsibility. I'm not down with this. I'm not interested. I'm out of here. I'm not saying I'm not saying you're a good person if you do this. I'm just saying you should have the right to do it. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying it makes you a good person. I'm just saying guys don't have that option. A girl can be like, oh, yes, you will, and drag your ass into court. And can make you take care of the kid. So the guy doesn't get a way out. That's the only reason I'm against it. See, my belief system is this. If you're allowed to walk away, I'm allowed to walk away.
Very true.
If you're forced to deal with it, I'm forced to deal with it. Case in point. Recently, Roe versus Wade got overturned. Earlier last year. So now in some states, it is against the law to have an abortion. I don't know which states they are. I don't know if Georgia's on that list or not.
I don't think so.
I haven't really followed. I haven't seen on any dockets in voting to whether or not to keep it around. But that's the answer. That's my belief. If you're allowed to leave, I'm allowed to leave. Because the reason abortion was designed was for three reasons. Rape, incest, and major medical reasons. Like if there's a major medical problem and abortion and no one gets an abortion, both y'all gonna die, then yes. That's what it was designed for. Here's the problem with abortion though. Only 1% of the abortions in America are for those reasons. The other 99% are people who don't want the responsibility. So...
Or just be smart, gentlemen.
Just be smart. Everybody be smart.
What's the rule if you're a single dude? What my grandpa and my dad said, always pack.
Yeah.
Always pack.
Like, don't be a fool. Wrap your tool.
There you go.
You know?
It costs you, what, 75 cents for one? Then what, how much money for 18 years?
Exactly. But I'm saying that's the only reason I've ever been against abortion was for that reason. No other reason. And I will say this. Obviously, if you've had a one-night stand or you're in any of the three categories I mentioned before, this doesn't apply to you. But I will say this. If you're a woman and you're actually going to get an abortion, I think if you have a boyfriend or a husband, you should have a sit-down talk with that person and have the conversation. Like they say, women, it should be between a woman and her physician. No, I think it should be a woman, physician, and boyfriend/husband. That's what I think it should be. At least sit down and have the conversation. That's what I would do. If I was in a relationship with a girl and she got pregnant and she wanted to have an abortion, I would be like, okay, let's sit down and talk it out.
Yeah.
Let's have the conversation. If I feel like I want to keep it, I would have the conversation. And then if after that conversation, and it would be between her and me, nobody else in the room. None of my friends, none of her friends, none of my family, none of her family. Get the fuck out of the room. This is one-on-one, you and me. Because we're the ones that would be taking care of this thing. And if after that conversation, if we both came to the conclusion, if after that conversation, she still felt strongly about, I still feel like abortion's the right option, I would support it.
Okay.
And I would support it because she was at least willing to come to me.
Yeah.
But if she didn't come to me and just went and did it, that's the abrupt end of our relationship.
Yeah.
Because to not include the boyfriend or husband, that's why I'm not saying father, I'm saying boyfriend and husband. Because if you have a one-night stand with a random dude, you ain't got to call him for shit.
Nope.
You don't know that guy. Be careful next time, but you don't know that guy anything. But if you're in a serious relationship with somebody that you love, they should be involved in that conversation. Otherwise, you don't really love that other person.
True. Or if you're a girl at 27 years old, go on the pill.
Well, I'm saying there's options to prevent it. I'm just saying, I'm talking about if you're in that situation already.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm just saying that's the only reason I've ever been against it, because it doesn't give the guy, because the guy doesn't have the option to walk away. And here's the thing: I'm not saying that you're a good person if you do walk away. I'm not saying you're not a piece of shit for abandoning the kid. I'm just saying you shouldn't be taken to court for it.
Yeah,
that's my answer. That's all I'm saying. Like I said, if you can walk away, I can walk away. If you have to stay, then I have to stay. That's why I'm saying now that abortion is, illegal now in certain states, if the girl is forced to keep the pregnancy and the guy decides to walk away, now you can take his ass to court.
Sure.
Because you as a woman are being forced into a situation that you don't want to be in. You can't cut and run now. So neither should the guy. Now I support that.
True.
On the flip side, if you're in a state where abortion is perfectly legal, then my previous ruling still stands. If you can leave, I can leave. That's why it's a Dave Chappelle rule, I call it. Like, if a woman decides to keep the baby, a man should not have to pay. And I've had the option back and forth. It's like, the whole thing is like, I got to carry it for 9 months. I got to pay for it for 18 years. Like, my body, my choice. My money, my choice. You don't know the pain of childbirth. Bitch, I passed a kidney stone. I win. I can take that argument down very easily. But anyway, the network made a bold choice to air this. It helped to put a human face on the issue and let you see it from a different perspective. Even if you don't agree with abortion, you can at least sympathize with the person. Like, for example, John in the show is against abortion. He even says he thinks Tammy is making a mistake. He's against it completely. And he's against it for the other reasons, not mine. But he's still her friend and chooses to stick by her. And that's the important thing. See, this is how human beings fucking behave.
Yeah.
Okay? I don't agree with your decision, but you're still my friend and I'm still going to help you. That's what a friend does. He's not required to agree with your decision. There's no law that says he has to agree with your decision. What makes you a friend is that you're still sticking by him.
Yeah.
That's what a friend is. He might think that she's making a mistake and what she's doing is wrong. But he's not going to turn his back on his friend. And that's what it's supposed to be. You can have different opinions. And that's another good thing here, because if you're against abortion, you still feel for Tammy. And that's, again, what is brilliant, putting a human face to the issue. Trust me, I have friends who have different opinions than me, and I've stood by them through a lot of their shit. Because that is what a friend is supposed to do. And that's what makes John a good person. Usually on TV, they talked about abortion, but never actually did it. They either lost the baby conveniently, like a miscarriage, or they decide to keep the baby and deliver it.
Yeah.
The real world does neither one of those things. It shows how Tammy decides to handle her own pregnancy. It talks about how I'm having this abortion. She's telling her family. She's telling her friends. She's going through the ordeal. And it films her going to the clinic and filling out the paperwork. Now, obviously, they can't film the actual abortion. They didn't get the authority to do that. No. But they filmed her going in, filling in the paperwork, and then they filmed her coming out. And it was an honest look at it, which is why she didn't get vilified. It was authentic and real. It had an impact on society. It was reality TV at its best. Yeah. And that's why. And also, here's the thing. Tammy, if you saw through the series, was a good person.
Yeah.
She wasn't a bitch to anybody. She didn't yell. Like, when she found out that John was against abortion, she didn't tell him to go fuck himself or anything like that. She respected his opinion and accepted the help from a friend.
Yeah.
So that's that's the thing. And nobody vilified her. Even the people who are against abortion, no one vilified Tammy for what she did.
Yeah.
Because she was showing who she is.
Yeah.
Being authentic. It was real. She wasn't over dramatizing. She wasn't marching or protesting or trying to label or shame anybody. Just wanted an abortion, went and got it. Tammy's personal experience, including her work at a local AIDS clinic, helped to make season 2 of The Real World a rating success for MTV. Yeah. She also inspires the show's co-creators, Jonathan Murray and Mary Ellis Bunham, to get season 3 at ground zero for the AIDS crisis. San Francisco. Because now the AIDS crisis is coming through.
Yeah.
You know, we mentioned last week about Magic Johnson and HIV and all that.
Yeah.
Well, AIDS was a major epidemic in the 90s, particularly in San Francisco. Because again, even though they're not the only group that can catch this, San Francisco was home to a lot of gay people. Mm-hmm. And a lot of gay people were catching AIDS. Yeah. Now again, they're not the only people that can get this. If you're straight, you can also get AIDS.
Yes, you can.
I'm just saying that was the main group that was getting it. It was just, these are scientific facts. This is not meant to hate. This is not hate speech. It's what it was. And there were 200,000 people who died of AIDS in the 90s. 200,000 people.
That's a lot of people.
In 1994, there was no treatment. See, today they have some treatment for HIV. There's some little bit of it. There's no cure.
Technology got better.
Yeah. Magic Johnson found some fucking miracle to keep him going.
I only wish we had the miracle drug from good old Freddie Mercury.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, he caught it way early in life. Yeah. He got it like...
Everybody called it the gay man killer. I go like, oh, they're not wrong. I'm not trying to be mean. It was a gay man. It killed gay men. A lot of gay men. Yeah. They weren't smart.
So for the new season, they casted an openly gay man with HIV to bring attention to the issue.
Pedro,
yes. His name was Pedro Zamora, and his openness and authenticity shines throughout his audition tape. He wanted to be on the show to give a real-world perspective on what it's like to live with HIV. He was on the Mariel boat lift in 1980 when thousands of Cubans came over to the United States. And I think this was like a Scarface kind of thing.
Yeah. I remember that. That's from Scarface.
Yeah.
At least he's not a psychopathic drug murderer.
Well, I'm a political refugee from Cuba. I am a political refugee, man.
That's all you say.
Yes.
What's with this 12 keys of cocaine right there to be found stashed around you, sir?
Hey, you'll say a word, I promise you'll be washing dishes in Alaska. So dress warm. The producers at MTV decide not to inform the other castmates that Pedro has HIV. They knew that somebody on the show was HIV positive, they just didn't know who. And that I can understand.
Yeah.
At first, because again, this is the thing, as I mentioned before, when I do these shows, I'm typing, I'm doing notes, as I see right here. I have to do a lot of pausing. So I pause at that point, and I'm like, wait a minute. I'm sorry, you cannot have somebody on a show and not tell them they have HIV.
Yeah, true.
Now, if you want to say someone has HIV but you don't know who, okay, at least now we're aware there's an HIV issue. Because you need to bring that up. That's not something that you should keep secret.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you can't. If you're going to live in a house with other people, you need to tell them.
It's not like you walk past, dude, you're going to get HIV.
No.
No, you can't. I was like, no.
Well, there's a bit of a story in here that explains it later of what I'm talking about. But, however, Pedro used a scrapbook to tell everybody he was. Like, Pedro basically came out and said, I have HIV. I'm the guy. By showing that he had done AIDS educational classes in schools. So he was basically spreading awareness of AIDS and HIV and trying to educate people on what it's like to live with HIV. To let people know it's a sexually transmitted disease. Which means you can only catch it through sex or exchange of bodily functions. That's it.
Don't share a needle.
don't share a needle, be mindful of hygiene, stuff like that. As long as you're careful like that, like for example, you can stand next to somebody who has HIV, you're not going to catch it. His story was in the Wall Street Journal, and he did policy work in Washington advocating for HIV and AIDS. So he's been doing the work before coming on this show. But not everybody in the house welcomes Pedro. Rachel just got up and left. She wanted to ask the hard questions, like how would it affect us having him as a roommate? And she was frustrated that none of that was being discussed. She also didn't want to share a bathroom with him at the time. Now at the time, AIDS was a death sentence. So Rachel's fears are not unwarranted. Like, that's the thing people need to understand. Rachel's asking these questions out of fear, not hatred. Because, you understand, back then, if you got AIDS, you died. It's okay, here's the best way I can describe it. And I know it sounds crazy, but it's the best way I can describe it. It's like today, when all y'all freaked out over COVID. That's pretty much how they felt about AIDS, is the way y'all treat COVID. Like, God forbid, somebody wasn't wearing a mask. You lost your goddamn mind. Are you not getting the vaccine? You're going to kill us all. Like, that level of crazy paranoia, where if you thought somebody coughed or sneezed, you were all going to die. That is where Rachel's at right now with AIDS. Okay? So just to give y'all a perspective, to show that Rachel's not homophobic, the fear you guys have with COVID, she had with AIDS, and a lot of people in the 90s had with AIDS. Because it was killing motherfuckers. And here's the thing. If I was going to be on The Real World with Pedro at that time, the bathroom thing would have been my first question. How's this bathroom thing going to work? I would ask her, if we have to share a bathroom, so be it. I'd rather we don't. I'm sorry. But if we have to share a bathroom, what can we do hygiene-wise to make sure I don't catch this thing? And I think Pedro, because he's an educator on AIDS, I think he would have answered that question. Pedro strikes me as the type of person that wouldn't be hurt, wouldn't be offended. He would be, oh, okay, here's what we can do. Because that's what you need to do. I would need to know. How are we able to coexist in this house without catching anything? And Rachel's frustrated. It's like, no one's going to ask this question? This is stuff we need to know because you're living with him. And I feel like Pedro is mature enough to answer those questions. And here's the thing about me. As long as I have an answer that makes sense, I can work with this.
Yes.
I'm like, okay. Like, what do we do? Okay, we'll go in the bathroom one at a time. Tell you what, in the morning, you go first, and I'll go second. And I'll make sure after I'm done, I thoroughly clean up everything so there's no germs. I'll make sure not to leave anything in a certain place or whatever. We would compromise.
Yeah, compromise.
And I'd be like, okay, I can work with that.
Yeah.
Let's share a bathroom.
I understand what people being scared and it's just being paranoid. Now I'm like, oh, okay. I was like, I'll still be friends with the person, and yeah, of course, if they're in pain, yeah, hook them up with something green and beautiful. And here's the thing with that: marijuana is not a curable drug. I asked my doctor one time, does it actually help people with AIDS and cancer? Like, yes, it does. She goes like, well, like it makes them eat, aka the munchies, right? They go like, yeah. It's like, okay, it just eases the pain and make them into a pissy mood, into a better mood.
Well, that's why they had medical marijuana. It was helping people who couldn't eat. It was helping people who couldn't eat. That's why they use it. THC makes you hungry.
Oh yeah, when you're high as hell and get the munchies, anything tastes good.
Yeah. Now here's the difference though. Rachel's freaking out, but like I said, what Rachel's doing is out of fear, not hate. She doesn't hate Pedro. She's just scared of the HIV. But it's Puck, a local bike messenger, who will give Pedro the hardest time.
Yeah.
He was a reality TV villain asshole who treated Pedro badly. Pedro got attention from the roommates and was liked, and Puck was instantly disliked by just about everyone.
True.
Puck's antics became even more problematic as Pedro's health begins to deteriorate. Bad living conditions and stress in the house start to affect his health as his T-cell count gets lower and lower. He basically has no immune system left.
Oof.
So While we said Rachel was out of fear, Puck is the one with the hatred.
Yeah.
Puck is just a prick throughout this entire thing. And again, because they put a human face with this, it made it more sympathetic. So I don't care how homophobic you might have been in the 90s or how homophobic you still are. Even the most devout homophobe is looking at Puck like he's an insensitive piece of shit. Because even if you don't like gay people, if you go after Pedro, you're basically kicking someone while they're down. To where even if somebody is not really a big fan of homosexuality, they're still looking at you like, dude, come on. Come on, man. Dude's got AIDS. He's dealing with enough shit. We don't need to be fucking with him. Okay? It's like that scene when there's 3 guys beating up on somebody, and eventually the other guys go, dude, come on. You scared him, alright? He's had enough. We don't need to do this anymore. You know that kind of thing?
Yeah.
Like when the bully has 2 henchmen, eventually the henchmen are like, dude, this is getting too real, man. Come on. He's had enough. You made your point. Let's get out of here. And so you get that bully that goes, we had enough when I say it's enough. And even the 2 guys are like, yeah, we can't follow this dude no more. He's taking this to a level where it's ain't right. That's kind of how it was with Puck. He took it to a level where it did not need to go.
It did not.
Pedro's declining health only seems to fuel Punk's bullying behavior. He was mad that the attention wasn't on him, and he started making homophobic remarks. The tensions continue to escalate until Pedro issues an ultimatum. Either Puck leaves or he leaves.
Then, I wonder who left.
Gee!
I wonder.
I mean, first of all, let's clarify this. The whole reason Pedro's on the show is because they want to show what it's like living with HIV. Mm-hmm. He actually has a reason for being casted, and his condition is about the theme of the show, and thus why they chose to do Real World in San Francisco. So even if Puck was likable, mm-hmm. which he clearly isn't, yeah. From a marketing standpoint, mm-hmm. you're keeping Pedro.
Yes.
Pedro, in my opinion, had all the stroke. No pun intended. Like, literally, had all the power.
Yeah.
If Pedro wanted green M&Ms in his fucking room, he was getting green goddamn M&Ms. Mm-hmm. He could have been a diva if he wanted to. He held all the cards. Puck? Nobody give a shit about him. And he's an asshole on top of that.
Very true.
So, yeah, you're unlikable. Nobody wants to be around you.
Nope.
You're homophobic, but not only are you homophobic, you're bullying somebody who's sick with AIDS. You can't get more fucked up than that. It's literally the most heartless human being on earth. Mm-hmm. Because again, even people who are homophobic are sympathizing with Pedro. They don't want to see this happen to him.
No.
Anybody that's taking joy out of Pedro being sick with AIDS or anybody being sick with AIDS, gay or otherwise, mm-hmm. there's something wrong with you. I don't care what your beliefs are. Nobody should hate somebody that much unless they did something to you personally. And Pedro don't strike me as somebody that caused somebody personal harm. Maybe he did. I don't know. I never met the guy. But from what I saw, he was a genuine good human being. By 1994, San Francisco has been supportive of gay rights for decades. The city elected the first openly gay mayor in California, Harvey Milk. It also hosts the country's largest gay pride parade. So when the Real World San Francisco cast is forced to choose between AIDS-educated Pedro and belligerent bully Puck, their decision does their adoptive city proud. With Puck voted out of the house, Pedro can once again focus on his life's mission of educating the country's youth about a deadly disease. The house was also much more peaceful. So yeah, despite what I said before about David, there didn't need to be a roundtable discussion here.
Nope.
Yeah, get him out the fucking house.
Bye.
He's clearly an asshole. At that point, they're past apologies.
Yes.
So there was no option for Puck to sit there and go, I'm sorry. You were past that point, motherfucker. With his health seemingly on the mend, Pedro is invigorated. The Real World captures his budding relationship with Sean Sasser, a fellow AIDS educator who's also HIV positive. And I was like, okay. At least it's somebody else who's also HIV positive. Because if you're HIV positive, you don't need to be dating nobody.
No.
No.
Sorry.
Unless they also have that same disease.
There you go.
Okay? I don't care how in love you are.
Yep.
If you have AIDS, the worst thing you can do is be in a relationship with somebody who doesn't have AIDS.
Gotcha.
Then you be a piece of shit.
Yes.
So at least he was also HIV positive. Okay, that's a relief. They add this to the show to tell more of Pedro's story. And they felt they were getting the whole story. But like too many AIDS sufferers of that decade, Pedro's health eventually worsens.
Yes.
As season 3 airs on MTV, viewers tune in to follow along with Pedro's courageous struggle. He becomes a star and starts doing a press tour. In the middle of it, gets really sick with PCP pneumonia, but eventually recovered. So yeah, so he got hit pretty bad, but he eventually got better.
Yeah, that's true.
Pedro's recovery opens up the opportunity for Sean and him to formalize their relationship in another reality TV first. Mm-hmm. Having a gay wedding on TV. Mm-hmm. Now keep in mind, gay marriage is not even close to being legal yet. It's not even socially accepted yet.
Not at all.
Keep in mind, the fact that Pedro has AIDS is the reason he is loved by all. Make that very clear.
Very true.
Okay? Because again, they're putting a human face with the story. And again, it's a good person with a good heart.
Yes.
And it's hard to hate somebody who's a good person with a good heart.
Very true.
Puck managed to pull it off, but the rest for the rest of us, it would be hard.
Very true.
Yeah. They were married in 1994 during a commitment ceremony, and it was a ratings bonanza for MTV.
I bet it was.
Oh, it was. But soon after the wedding, Pedro's health declines once again. Even the president was moved by his story. Bill Clinton called just to check in and say that he was praying for him. He also arranged for his family in Cuba to come to the United States so they could be by his side. And here's the thing. I talk a lot of shit about Bill Clinton. But I give Bill Clinton credit. This was a genuine good thing that he did. I found something about Bill Clinton to like. Mm-hmm. I didn't think it was possible, but I found it. This is something I will give Bill Clinton credit. This is a genuine good thing for him to do.
Yes.
And the thing is, he didn't have to do that.
Nope.
There was no laws that he had to do it. I don't know if anybody on his staff told him it would be good publicity if he did it. I think Bill Clinton just, out of the goodness of his heart, did that.
Yes.
And I do think that was a very generous thing for Bill to do. And it's good to have his family by his side because, you know, the guy's dying.
Yeah, true.
So, obviously, you would want your family there to at least be by your side, say their goodbyes, whatever. That was a good thing, you know? Yeah. And it was also a good thing, and I found this interesting.
What's that?
That his family was accepting that he was gay.
Ah.
Because keep in mind, because let me tell you something. Being gay in America was hard back then. I can only imagine how hard it was in other countries. Keep in mind, there are still other countries today that don't accept homosexuality. They don't, at all. Still considered wrong in other parts of the nation. We as Americans have overall accepted it. We still have our occasional homophobic people, but sadly those fuckers are never going away.
True.
That's just a fact. They're never going away. They're still going to be here.
Yep.
But as a country as a whole, we're accepting of it. The day after the final episode of The Real World San Francisco airs on MTV, Pedro dies in Miami. He was called America's friend. He died with 2 of his friends from the show and with his family around him. 1,500 people attended his memorial service in Miami Beach. People really felt connected to him and were devastated by his passing. Now no one in America can say they've never known someone who's living with AIDS. The challenge to each of us is to do something about it.
Yes.
And that was a great speech. And very moving. And it was like, so many people came out because he was such an inspiration to people.
Yes. And
Pedro's education on AIDS was a great moment in television history. But if the history of television teaches us anything, it's that the show must go on. So obviously there's going to be other seasons of The Real World. Yeah. And eventually they do have to move on.
Yes, they do.
But it was good to have that memorial service for him. And for Pedro to be remembered in that way. And as MTV pumps out follow-up seasons of The Real World, the genuine emotion of the first 3 seasons will be replaced by something darker and more unsettling. The death of 22-year-old Pedro Zamora and the attention he brings to The Real World marks a new era for MTV, where the execs demand more reality TV-style content. But talk shows like Jerry Springer, which we already talked about, demonstrate audiences will show up for confrontation. The more fistfights and depravity, the better. MTV responds with real-world spinoffs where conflict takes center stage. And this is where a reality show becomes trash TV.
Yep.
Right here.
Yep.
When you start focusing more on fights and less about human beings and human issues, that's where you've lost everybody.
Pretty much.
And it becomes stuff about, look how rich I am. I don't give a fuck. Not even that. Or the Real Housewives and shit.
Oh, God. How many there's all the Real Housewives of this place, of this place, of this place, of this place. I was like, get a fucking grip, ladies.
Yeah. And here's the thing about the Real Housewives. They're not even Real Housewives.
Nope.
All of them wear sparkling dresses, go to fancy parties, and spend their husband's money.
I get a lot of plastic surgery.
Yeah. To me, that's not a housewife.
No.
That's not a housewife.
Not at all.
Okay? The purpose of a housewife, it was a wife who took care of the house.
Yes.
A more lighter phrase was homemaker.
The homemaker.
That's what it was. Now, before any feminists start commenting on this page, I am not saying that is a woman's only place in life. I'm just saying if you're going to call yourself a housewife, if you're going to give yourself that title, then you need to do what a housewife does. A housewife does the laundry. If you have kids, you take care of the kids. You cook dinner for your husband. You clean the house. You do the laundry. You do everything. That's what a housewife is. You vacuum the floor. You dust the place. That way, when your husband comes home, dinner's on the table. You took care of the house. Now, just to be clear, if you're in a house where the woman works and you're a stay-at-home dad, I respect that. I'm not hating on stay-at-home dads. But guess what? If you're a stay-at-home dad, that's your job too. You got to do all that shit. So your wife comes home. Fact. Don't call yourself a housewife if you ain't putting in the work to be a housewife. To me, a housewife is she's mixing food with one hand, got the phone right here, yelling at kids to run around the house. That's a housewife.
Mm-hmm.
And housewives put a lot of work in. Did the dishes, cleaned up, did all the housework. All of it. That's why they garnered respect. Because it's a lot of work to take care of a house. Especially if you're the only one cleaning it. And if you have kids, sometimes the kids are home, you can force them to help you out. That's perfectly acceptable. That way you become the boss and they're your employees. Your unpaid interns, as they were. To run around and clean up the goddamn house. But that's a housewife. But if you're not taking care of the house, or if you got a butler, or a maid, or a cook, or whatever, you ain't a housewife. You're a trophy wife. It should be called the Real Trophy Wives of Atlanta. The Real Trophy Wives of Beverly Hills. The Real Trophy Wives of Orange County. Because that's what you all are. You're just arm candy to your husband.
Pretty much.
It's disrespectful to actual housewives who still take care of homes. And again, I don't judge you if you are a housewife, and I'm not saying that's the only job you're qualified to have. If you're a woman and you don't want to be a housewife and you want to go out and you want to work and you want to make money and you want to have a career, go get it.
Yes,
Chase your dream.
Yep.
Do it. I'm just saying, if you're not doing housework, don't call yourself a housewife. They have Road Rules, which is basically Real World in an RV. Mm-hmm. Then they do the Real World versus Road Rules challenge with alumni from each show. So they bring people back from previous seasons, kind of do a competition kind of thing. The shift in reality is on full display when the show's producers shoot a reunion special and it quickly devolves into performative conflict. Puck goes to war with a former housemate who is pissed off at him for his comments about Pedro's death. Mm-hmm. Once again, Puck is kicked out of the real world.
Yep.
And he's basically sitting there going like, you know, how he said horrible things about Pedro and how he said good riddance when he died or whatever. And Puck's just like, whatever. And he goes, your mother is my secret lover. It's like, really, dude?
That's the part where I go stomp him on the face.
Well, it's not just that. Like, the guy's sitting there going, really? You're not even going to argue back? You're just going to use an insult like that? Stupid. That's just immature shit at that point. What did you say about Pedro? I'll be like, I would either do one of two things. Either say, I didn't say shit about Pedro, you're fucking lying. Or you could say, yeah, I said it and I don't give a fuck. It's like, you already demonstrated in the show you don't like Pedro.
Well, what you said. Pedro had the attention, and Puck didn't. He wanted the attention more than Pedro.
Well, I don't know what he thought he was going to get once he had the attention. Like, nobody was buying into his crap.
No, none of them at all.
Nobody liked him. The challenge for MTV was to create the next reality TV show or real-world season that tops the year before. Because that's the challenge. Once you do something, you got to top it.
Yes.
How are you going to top it? That's why they say in wrestling, don't do crazy shit in the ring. Because then you got to top it to do even more crazy shit, which can get you hurt or killed.
Yep.
They had to make it bigger and better. But bigger isn't always better. For the real world, the authentic reality on display in the initial seasons is replaced by vapid battles over airtime and attention. And that's why the show devolved. It got away from its core presence. Mm-hmm. There's a reason people tune into your show. Yes, there were fights. But there were fights within a story. It's like they say in wrestling, like, oh, people pay attention to these high spots. So let's just go out to the ring and do a bunch of high spots. No, the high spots work within the context of your story.
Very true.
That you're telling in the ring. That's why you take the high spots and you place them throughout the show. But in between those high spots, you have other things going on that help you to tell the story. Certain moves, certain ways of selling, taunting. You're telling the story. That's why you have to work the gimmick of the match to tell your story to do your business. The real world, same thing. The real world had to have its fun moments because nobody wants to see fights all the time.
True.
And if you do, there's something wrong with you.
Mm-hmm.
Usually there has to be something that happens, other good things. There has to be a rest time in between to give the audience time to process what they just saw.
Mm-hmm.
You're sitting there going, like, you're seeing all this other stuff, and you're like, whoa, that was a crazy fight.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there's some other interesting things happen here. Maybe there's a conversation or like an apology somewhere. And then maybe later on there's another fucking fight. But it's like, Jesus Christ, if the whole thing is just fight after fight after fight after fight after fight, eventually you become immature children. And nobody wants to watch that.
Very true.
By the end of the decade, the show is more focused on partying, drinking, getting laid, and getting in fist fights. This is also the time Girls Gone Wild becomes a success. People want to see young people going wild, and this becomes a golden formula for MTV with millennials who are interested in branding themselves. Mm-hmm. And again, this is all about the kids wanting to be brands and not interested in doing anything else. Instead of being people, they want to brand themselves. And they're basically using the reality show to promote their brand instead of just being an authentic human being. Because I believe if you're a more authentic human being, it gravitates people to you and then show your brand.
You as well.
Because people are more likely to buy from somebody or purchase merch or reach out to somebody who they believe is being genuine. They have to like you before they can like what you have to offer. As the millennium hits, MTV redefines reality TV once again with Jackass, introducing audiences to stunts and pranks that test the limits of good taste, humor, and human endurance. And this was the one we were waiting to talk about.
Yes, I love Jackass. Half the time I laughed and half the time I want to fucking puke and half the time I want to go there and go, Smack, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Hi, I'm Wee Man, and this is a giant cone. I actually saw... Have you seen the Jackass movies?
Oh, yeah, of course I have.
I remember, I got a funny story. I saw the first Jackass movie when I was a sophomore in high school. And I wasn't old enough to get in the theaters yet. Mm. And I learned this because I tried to see an R-rated movie once and I got kicked out. So I devised this plan. And if you're a teenager and you want to use this, I'll pass this information on to you. Here's a trick. This is a trick I learned. Get an adult, first thing. In my case, it was my mom. Because my mother wasn't one of those PC parents. So if you got one of those parents who doesn't give a shit, help them out. But if you don't, find an adult. Have them go and buy the ticket in advance for the time you want to go. My mom went down there, got the ticket. Came back and got me. A few hours later, drove me back. I walk in, because I have a ticket, and walk right past the ticket counter. Mm-hmm. I go, and I'm staying in that line with the people that are going, they're tearing the tickets. Usually the guy tearing the tickets unless he's one of those guys that really likes his job, he ain't gonna card you. As long as you gotta be calm, walk up, hand him the ticket, don't make eye contact, and you can just go, enjoy the show. Because I did see sometimes they were asking for IDs. I'm like, dead. So as soon as I go in there, he goes, enjoy the show. I said, okay. I walked into the movie theater where Jackass was. Now this is risky, but I promise you, it's gonna work. When I sat down to watch Jackass, I sat in the back, but I sat on the aisle seat. Now some of you are thinking, Booch, you sat on the aisle seat. Wouldn't they catch you? En contraire. Most of the time, if you're sneaking into something, where are you most likely to hide?
The back.
In the back. Where in the back?
In the middle.
You're going to sit in the middle. You're going to sit in an area where it's super dark and they can't see you. And guess what? When they have ushers walking around looking for underage kids, that's where they're looking. And there was a random cup family sitting right here, a few seats down. Like I was sitting here, there was an empty seat, and there was a bunch of people sitting here. So here's what I would do. They walk by, I'm in the aisle seat. Every time they walk by, I would just kind of lean over and be like, so you guys excited for the movie? Now, they're going to be looking at me like, what the fuck? But I'm asking generic questions. And I go, yeah, we're excited for the movie. Oh, cool, I love the movie. They walk right by me. They come by again, they're going to go, Johnny Knoxville's my favorite. Who's yours? And they're just walking right by. Eventually, they walk out. The lights. Never came and got me. I watched the whole thing.
Watching Steve-O crash through a ceiling fan.
Watched all that shit. I watched all that shit. Hi, I'm Johnny Knoxville. Welcome to Jackass. Dude, I love those stunts. Like my favorite was one where the Jackass guys where they were getting them to read a sign and they push a button and a boxing glove comes out and hits them.
Yeah.
Or one time I think the guy got like zapped on his fucking nuts, whatever. Yeah. I think one time Steve-O did a butt chug with like a beer thing where they put beer in his ass and the tube, and then they poured it in there.
I remember the Electric Avenue.
Oh god. Here's a favorite: the roller disco where they're in the back of that moving truck and they're driving around a circle
and tossing out like oh my god,
or getting launched through the air and they're landing, or of course when Wee Man would be in his underwear and the fat guy's in his underwear going, "You get back here!"
Yeah.
Or when they were boxing Butterbean and the fucking clothing.
Wee Man jumped off. Person held on to him, fell off, and dragged Weemon down, jumping off that bridge in Miami, hanging out with the Miami Dolphins.
Yes.
And Chris Pontius was sitting down there with no shirt on, talking to the Miami Dolphins with pink bunny ears on his head.
My favorite part of the first one was on Jackass, they couldn't cuss when it was a TV show. So the movie they were going to cuss, he goes, I'm going to get my mom to say fuck. This is Bam Margera. So they're hiding. This motherfucker put an alligator in his fucking house. And the mom comes out. She's like, ah! She's like screaming really loud. And then finally, they're like, oh my God. And then eventually she goes, ah, where'd this fucking thing come from? And Bam starts laughing. And then he's yelling at his mom. Like, his mom really goes, is it real?
Yeah,
is it real?
Yeah, it's real.
She goes, yeah, it's real. Ah! She just runs and barricades herself in the bath. She locked herself in the bathroom going, get that fucking thing out of here. And Bam is laughing his ass off. Like, Jackass did a lot of insane stunts, but they were funny.
Yeah, they were funny.
That's the thing. It was funny. It was entertaining. And as long as you weren't stupid enough to try that shit, everything was okay.
They say, do not do this. We're professionals. I saw that. I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that.
Well, they said the following stunts were performed by professionals or under the supervision of professionals. So it was either that or they were being supervised. Don't try this at home. And you had to do that for legal reasons. It was a great show.
It was.
Like I said, I loved Steve-O was great in that.
Oh god.
I think one time he got covered in bees and he stung and shit.
Like play with a bee hit the ball. The beach, the ball. I was like, you guys are fucking nuts. I was like Johnny Knoxville stood there and got hit by a bull.
Yeah.
Blindfolded, or the one that were doing the teeter tot, or they came up, and a bull came up there and everything else. Another bull came up there, and one thing about Bam, he does not like snakes.
I don't either.
Hold on, I saw that.
The snake pit thing where he went fucking nuts and he was like yelling and screaming. And it's fun. And here's the thing, like it's funny because you didn't see people doing that, and it was crazy. And the other thing, that was one of the MTV shows that were great.
Yeah.
Now reality TV rolls on with shows like The Bachelor, Jersey Shore, The Anna Nicole Show, Paris Hilton, and tons of others. And its legacy will always be linked to the pioneers who broke first ground. They showed an aspect of their lives, not their entire lives, which is the key thing. Show an aspect of your life, not the whole damn thing.
Very true.
And 2 of the cast members fell in love and got married and are still married today.
Yep.
Which I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
That happened. Like, I don't know if they hooked up on the show, if they hooked up after the show or whatever. But either way, glad they're married today.
Yep.
So it's kind of great.
Yes, it was great.
And of course, Jersey Shore was ridiculous. You know, the funny thing I still love about that is, first of all, none of those people are from Jersey. They're either, most of them are from New York, 2 of them are from Rhode Island. Now you can tell right away they're not from New Jersey. When Snooki was at Seaside Heights, where I used to go every summer when I lived in Jersey, and she's running down the boardwalk going, "Where the fuck is the beach?" Now, for those of you who've never been to Seaside Heights, I'll tell you right now. Boardwalk, stairs, beach. Like, it's like right there. Literally, the beach and the boardwalk go hand in hand. And you're just sitting there going, this bitch is stupid. She really is. Like, I hate that show. Because when I tell people I'm from Jersey, they go, Jersey Shore. I'm like, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. I've been in Jersey. No one talks like that. No one in Jersey talks like that. Although there is one show on MTV, reality TV, that I did like. And I'll say this before we wrap up. Catfish.
Yeah. I
liked Catfish. I thought it was great. You know, the fact that they're helping people find their online people to find out if they're lying or telling the truth. And in a lot of cases, you know, it turns out to be a lie.
Yeah, that's very true, sir.
But but then you get those rare cases where it is somebody telling the truth. Like, why would you video chat with me? I was ashamed, or I didn't have the equipment, but it really was me. And you see some people who have great relationships and fall in love. Some people have breakups. Some of them were friends who were ashamed, where someone was ashamed of how they look. And even though they didn't date, they become like friends and stuff. Where it's like, look, I'll be your friend, even though I'm not going to date you. But so there was some good endings. Some of them were crazy, fucking insane people. And Neve and Max were awesome in that. I felt like Max is like over the top judgmental, and I think Neve's the one that likes to give people the benefit of the doubt until he meets him in person. There's been times where Neve has been triggered and pissed off at somebody, and rightfully so. But I think Max is just like very overbearing in that show.
Yes, very true.
But overall, Catfish was great. That's one of the few shows on MTV I'll even watch anymore. The rest of the time I don't watch it. And also, I will say this about MTV: fuck, were you thinking giving Andy Milonakis a show? What the fuck? What? Alright, and that, ladies and gentlemen, will wrap up this episode of Boochcast Reviews, Darkside of the 90s. Zach, as always, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join me. And make sure you guys tune in next week. We're going to have one of the most controversial episodes here.
Bad boy.
What you gonna do?
What you gonna do when they come for you?
Yes. Cops, bad boys next week. So... yeah. Make sure you guys follow us on all of our podcast platforms. Links are down in the description box below. Follow us on all social media platforms. Links are down in the description box below. And you guys can support the Boochcast. Go to anchor.fm/theboochcast/support. And, of course, hit the subscribe button and ring that bell to be notified so you never miss another episode of Boochcast Reviews Darkside of the 90s, as well as other additional Boochcast YouTube content. We'll talk to you guys soon. Until then, pizza, baby!